The apartment was silent until Emily screamed, a sound that pierced the night like glass shattering in the dark. She clutched her son Noah tightly, her body trembling as if the world beneath her feet had collapsed. David stood across the room, his face twisted with rage and betrayal, eyes filled with a fire that burned hotter than words. He shouted, his voice raw, "You will regret this, Emily." He stormed toward the door, his fists clenched, the weight of broken promises hanging heavy in the air. Emily begged, "Please, not in front of Noah," her voice cracked, desperate and small. David slammed the door so hard the frame shook, leaving behind silence thicker than grief. Emily's breath came in shallow bursts as Noah buried his face in her chest, whispering, "Mommy, I'm scared." Her arms tightened around him, her heart pounding against his ear. Sirens wailed in the distance, a cruel reminder that the world outside kept spinning even as hers had stopped. In that moment, Emily felt her strength flicker like a candle in a storm, yet she held on, whispering to herself, "I will not break." The silence that followed the slam pressed heavily against Emily's chest as if the air itself refused to move. She whispered to Noah, "It's okay, baby, you're safe with me," though her voice betrayed her fear. His small hand clung to her sleeve, desperate for comfort. Emily looked around the apartment, every corner now feeling hostile, the warmth stripped away. Memories of laughter in this very room cut her deeper than David's words. Noah asked softly, "Will he come back?" Her heart clenched, and she forced a smile, whispering, "Not tonight, sweetheart." In the distance, the sirens faded, replaced by the hum of the city beyond their fragile walls. Emily pressed her cheek to Noah's curls, whispering a promise she wasn't sure she could keep, "I'll protect you no matter what." Emily guided Noah to his small bedroom, his feet dragging against the wooden floor. She tucked him into bed, smoothing his blanket with trembling hands. Noah asked, "Why was Daddy so angry?" The question sliced through her, and she forced a calm tone. "He's just upset, but it's not your fault." She kissed his forehead, her lips lingering as if to shield him from the world outside. His eyelids fluttered, heavy with exhaustion, yet his hand refused to let go of hers. She stayed until his breathing slowed, each rise of his chest a fragile reassurance that she had not lost everything. Standing in the doorway, Emily whispered, "Sleep, my love," before closing the door halfway, leaving a sliver of light to guard him. Alone in the hallway, Emily leaned against the wall, her legs trembling until she slid to the floor. Her hands shook as she buried her face in them, the weight of betrayal pressing harder than the silence around her. She whispered into the emptiness, "Why, David? Why like this?" The memories rushed in, their wedding day, the promises, the laughter, now poisoned by anger and abandonment. She pulled her knees close to her chest, her tears staining her shirt. From Noah's room came the faint sound of his steady breathing, a reminder of why she couldn't collapse. "I have to stay strong," she whispered, gripping her chest, feeling the ache of a heart breaking but refusing to shatter completely. The night stretched endlessly as Emily sat by the window, staring at the city lights blurred by rain. Her reflection in the glass looked like a stranger, a woman broken yet unwilling to yield. She whispered, "Tomorrow will be different," though she doubted her own words. Every drop against the window echoed her heartbeat, steady yet fragile. She thought of Noah asleep in his room, the innocence he deserved, and vowed silently that she would endure any storm for him. "You're all I have, my little one," she whispered into the quiet. The neon glow outside flickered, painting her face in fractured light, a reminder that even in the darkest night, there was still a glimmer of hope to cling to. The morning sun crept through the blinds, painting stripes across Emily's tired face as she stirred from the couch. Her body ached from the restless night, but she forced herself up when Noah's small voice called, "Mommy, I'm hungry." She managed a weary smile, whispering, "Breakfast is coming, sweetheart." In the kitchen, the cupboards mocked her with their emptiness, just a few cans and bread nearing its end. She sighed, rubbing her temples, thinking of the bills stacked like unspoken threats on the counter. Noah sat at the table, swinging his legs, unaware of the storm pressing down. Emily placed toast before him, masking her despair behind a smile. "We'll make it work," she said softly, though her chest tightened with doubt. Outside, the city roared awake, but in their tiny apartment, survival had become the only rhythm they knew. Later that day, Emily rushed through the crowded office, balancing a stack of files while her phone buzzed with missed calls. Her boss, Karen, frowned as Emily stumbled into the meeting room. "You're late again," Karen said coldly. Emily muttered an apology, cheeks burning, her mind split between work deadlines and Noah waiting at daycare. The chatter of coworkers felt distant, their lives free of the chaos consuming hers. She forced herself to focus, nodding through the presentation, but her thoughts wandered to the rent notice folded in her purse. Every minute at work was survival, yet every second away from Noah felt like abandonment. As the meeting ended, Karen's voice cut through again. "One more mistake, Emily, and we'll have to reconsider your position." Emily nodded, swallowing the rising fear, whispering to herself, "I can't lose this job." That evening, Emily picked Noah up from daycare, exhaustion shadowing her every step. He ran into her arms, laughter bubbling, a spark of joy in her dark day. She lifted him, whispering, "I missed you, buddy." As they walked home, Noah chattered about his drawings, holding her hand tight. Emily smiled, hiding the ache in her back, the weight of responsibilities pressing on her shoulders. Passing shop windows, she noticed parents buying toys, the contrast stabbing her heart. Noah tugged her hand, asking, "Can we get pizza tonight?" She knelt, brushing his hair back gently, whispering, "Not today, but soon, I promise." His smile never faltered, his innocence shielding him from her quiet despair. Together they crossed the street, a small island of love, in a world that seemed intent on testing her strength. Later that night, Emily sat at the kitchen table, bills spread before her like battle plans. Her hands shook as she calculated numbers that never balanced. She whispered, "How much longer can I do this?" Noah's soft snores drifted from the bedroom, reminding her why she had no choice but to fight. Her best friend Sarah called, her warm voice filling the silence. "You can't keep doing this alone," Sarah said firmly. Emily forced a laugh. "Do I have a choice?" They spoke for an hour, Sarah offering comfort, encouragement, and promises of support. When the call ended, Emily pressed her forehead to the table, tears dripping onto unpaid bills. She whispered into the dark, "I can't fall apart, not now," as the clock ticked relentlessly forward. The night deepened, and Emily stepped onto the small balcony, the city sprawling beneath her in glittering lights. The cold air bit against her skin, but she welcomed its clarity. She whispered, "I can't keep drowning," her breath forming small clouds. She thought of Noah asleep inside, safe for now, and clutched the railing as though it could anchor her. Her gaze wandered to the skyline, where towers reached higher than her hopes dared. Sarah's words echoed, "You're stronger than you think." Emily whispered back to herself, "I have to be." A single tear slipped down her cheek, caught by the wind, lost to the night. She closed her eyes, drawing a long breath, the resolve settling like steel in her chest. For Noah, she would endure. For him, she would rise again. The next week, Emily's fragile balance shattered when she received a letter taped to her apartment door. Her hands trembled as she read David's words, a demand for custody. Her chest tightened, her breath quickening as her fears became real. Noah played nearby, humming softly, unaware of the storm brewing. Emily crumpled the paper, whispering, "He won't take you from me." Later that day, David appeared unannounced, his smirk sharp and cruel. "You'll lose, Emily," he sneered, his voice dripping with venom. She stood firm, her voice steady, though her heart shook. "Noah belongs with me." His laugh echoed in the hallway, cold and taunting. When the door shut behind him, Emily sank to the floor, clutching her son's toy in her hand. Tears welled, but her resolve hardened. She whispered to herself, "He'll never win, not while I can fight." At the daycare, Emily overheard whispers from another parent, words that sliced deep. "She's unstable, maybe not fit for custody." Her heart sank as she realized David's poison had spread beyond their walls. She smiled tightly, gathering Noah's things, her mind racing. Sarah called that evening, her voice sharp with anger when Emily explained. "He's trying to ruin you," Sarah said fiercely. Emily whispered, "He already is." Noah peeked into the room, his small face worried, asking, "Mommy, are you okay?" She knelt, forcing her trembling hands still as she brushed his hair back. "I'm fine, baby," she lied softly, though the truth weighed heavily on her chest. That night, Emily stared at the ceiling in darkness, David's threats echoing, her trust in the world thinning like fragile glass. The next day at work, Emily's world tilted further when her manager pulled her aside. "I've heard troubling things," Karen said, her tone icy. Emily froze, realizing David's lies had slithered here too. Panic rose, but she steadied her voice. "My personal life doesn't affect my work." Karen's gaze lingered, cold and judgmental, before she dismissed her with a warning. Emily walked back to her desk, the weight of eyes burning against her skin. Her coworkers whispered, their words cutting like knives, their pity sharper than scorn. Sitting at her desk, Emily gripped her pen so tightly it nearly snapped. She whispered into the hum of computers, "He's trying to destroy me everywhere I stand." The fear pressed heavy, yet under it, something sharper began to grow, defiance. That evening, Sarah came over, her presence a lifeline. She pulled Emily into a fierce hug, whispering, "You don't have to carry this alone." Emily's voice cracked, "But it feels like I already lost." They sat on the couch, Noah asleep in the other room, his soft snores carrying innocence Emily longed to protect. Sarah held her hand, her eyes steady with fire. "David thrives on your fear. Don't give it to him," she urged. Emily looked down, her hands trembling, whispering, "What if I'm not strong enough?" Sarah squeezed tighter, her voice unwavering. "Then let me be strong for you." Emily's tears fell freely, soaking into the cushion, but beneath them, resolve began to root. She whispered to Sarah, "I'll fight, even if it kills me." The next morning, Emily found herself face to face with David at the courthouse steps, his lawyer at his side. He smirked, whispering, "This is just the beginning." Her pulse raced, but she forced her chin high, whispering back, "You won't break me." Noah's face flashed in her mind, giving her the strength she thought she lacked. The cold stone of the courthouse loomed like a fortress, unforgiving and unyielding. Inside, the halls echoed with voices, each step pounding like a drumbeat of war. Emily whispered to herself, "For Noah." The words anchored her as she crossed the threshold, her shadow stretching long against the polished floor. The battle had begun, and she would not falter. Emily sat on the edge of her bed, the courthouse papers spread like weapons before her. Her reflection in the mirror looked unfamiliar, eyes hollowed by fear and nights without sleep. Noah stirred in the next room, his innocence a fragile shield against the storm. She picked up a photo from the dresser, their wedding day, David's smile still warm, hers radiant with hope. Now that image mocked her. She whispered, "How did we get here?" Memories surged uninvited. The night David first raised his voice, the first slammed door, the first time she hid her tears from Noah. The shadows of the past pressed down until her chest felt like it might collapse. She set the photo down, whispering into the silence, "You will not define me anymore." That night, Emily dreamed of the past. She walked through a kitchen bathed in morning sunlight, David laughing as Noah giggled in a high chair. For a moment, it felt real, warm, alive. But the laughter fractured into shouting, the image of David's face shifting into anger, his voice sharp. "You're nothing without me." Emily jolted awake, sweat dampening her hairline, her breath ragged. She pressed her hand to her chest, whispering, "It was never love, only control." Noah stirred softly, calling, "Mommy?" She hurried to his side, smoothing his curls. "I'm here, baby," she whispered, forcing her heartbeat to slow. The dream lingered, a cruel reminder that even the brightest memories were stained by shadows she could never erase. In the morning, Emily opened a letter from her lawyer, the words cutting deep. David had gathered character witnesses against her. Her hands shook as she whispered, "Even my past will be used against me." She remembered an old friend who betrayed her once, secrets shared in trust now twisted into weapons. Emily sank into a chair, the weight unbearable, but Noah rushed in, holding a crayon drawing of the two of them standing under a rainbow. "For you, Mommy," he said proudly. Tears filled her eyes, the paper shaking in her hands. She knelt and hugged him tight, whispering, "You're my light, always." His laughter wrapped around her like armor, fragile but real. For his sake, she would stand even against ghosts of the past. That evening, Sarah arrived carrying takeout, her eyes immediately finding the scattered papers. "He's dragging you through hell," she said firmly, setting the food down. Emily shook her head, her voice heavy. "I'm already there." Sarah sat across from her, their faces lit by the dim kitchen bulb. "You can't let him pull you back into the past," she warned. Emily whispered, "It never really left me." Sarah reached across the table, gripping her hand tightly. "You survived it once. You can survive it again." Emily's shoulders trembled as she whispered, "I don't feel strong enough." Sarah's eyes softened, her voice steady. "Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about rising again after you do." Emily nodded slowly, letting the words anchor her. Later that night, Emily stood before Noah's bed, watching him sleep. His small chest rose and fell, steady as her only anchor in the chaos. She whispered, "I'll never let him take you," though fear coiled in her stomach like ice. She brushed his hair back gently, her fingers trembling. For a moment, she saw herself as a little girl, hiding from shouting voices in her own childhood home. The memory hit hard, history repeating itself. She blinked away tears and kissed Noah's forehead. "You'll never know that pain," she vowed. As she turned off the lamp, her shadow stretched across the wall, long and weary, yet unbroken. She closed the door quietly, whispering into the dark hall, "For you, I will fight." Emily sat in the courthouse waiting room, nerves sparking like static beneath her skin. The ticking clock on the wall seemed louder with every second. She whispered, "I can't do this alone," though no one was there to hear. Then, a voice broke through the tension, hesitant yet familiar. "Emily?" She turned, stunned to see her estranged brother, Michael, standing at the doorway. Years had passed since they last spoke, his absence another wound she carried quietly. He looked older now, regret etched into his features. Emily's breath caught, and she whispered, "Why are you here?" Michael's voice was steady but heavy, "Because I should have been here all along." Tears blurred her vision, emotions warring inside her. For the first time in years, she wasn't facing the storm completely alone. Emily and Michael sat across from each other in a quiet cafe, the clink of cups and soft murmur of voices around them. She stared at him, anger and longing tangled in her eyes. "You left when I needed you most," she whispered, her voice shaking. Michael looked down, shame coloring his face. "I was scared, Emily. I thought I'd only make things worse." She clenched her hands, fighting back tears. "And you let me believe I had no one." His hand slid across the table, tentative, trembling. "I want to make it right," he said softly. She studied him, weighing his words against the scars of the past. At last she whispered, "Noah deserves family, but I can't be broken again." His eyes lifted, glistening. "Then let me prove I won't leave this time." Back at the apartment, Emily watched Michael kneel beside Noah, who looked up with curious wide eyes. "Who are you?" Noah asked softly, clutching his toy car. Michael hesitated, then smiled gently. "I'm your uncle." Noah tilted his head, studying him with innocent seriousness before grinning shyly. Emily stood in the doorway, her arms crossed tightly across her chest, unsure if trust could be rebuilt. Yet seeing Noah's smile stirred something fragile within her. Michael looked up at her, his voice steady. "I want to help you fight, Emily. Not just against David, but against the ghosts we both carry." Her throat tightened, tears pressing at the edges, though she fought them back. For the first time, hope flickered not just in her heart but in Noah's eyes as well. Later that evening, Emily and Michael sat on the balcony, city lights glowing beneath them like fallen stars. Emily's voice trembled as she confessed, I thought I buried the past, but it keeps clawing its way back. Michael leaned against the railing, his face heavy with guilt. I saw it all, Emily. What David did to you. And I stayed silent. She stared at him, hurt flashing in her eyes. Why now? His voice cracked, because watching from a distance was killing me. The silence between them was thick, broken only by the hum of traffic below. Emily closed her eyes, whispering, I don't know if I can forgive you. Michael's reply was quiet but resolute. I don't ask for forgiveness, only a chance to stand beside you. That night, Emily tucked Noah into bed, her mind racing with Michael's return. As she kissed Noah's forehead, he asked sleepily, Will Uncle stay? Her heart clenched, but she whispered, We'll see, baby. When she closed the door, Michael waited in the hallway, eyes heavy but steady. I'll testify for you, he said firmly. Emily froze, knowing his words could change everything. David will come after you too, she warned. Michael's jaw tightened. Let him. I've been silent too long. Emily's chest swelled with a mix of fear and gratitude, the weight of the decision pressing down. She whispered, If you do this, there's no going back. He nodded, unwavering. For the first time, Emily allowed herself to breathe, sensing an ally where once there was only loss. The courthouse buzzed with tension as Emily stepped inside, her heels echoing across the marble floor. She clutched Noah's photo in her hand, whispering, For you, my love. Across the hall, David stood tall beside his lawyer, his smirk as sharp as a blade. Michael joined her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder, his quiet strength grounding her. Sarah sat behind them, eyes fierce with loyalty. The judge entered, and the room fell into silence. Emily's chest rose and fell like she was breathing through glass. David's lawyer began with venom, painting her as unfit, weaving lies into polished words. Emily's hands shook, but she kept her eyes on Noah's picture, whispering under her breath, You are my reason. I won't fall. Emily sat at the witness stand, the wooden chair hard beneath her as David's lawyer fired questions like arrows. You've struggled financially, haven't you? He pressed. Her throat tightened, but she answered steadily, Yes, but my son has never gone without love or safety. Murmurs rippled through the room. David watched, smirking, arms folded as if he had already won. The lawyer sneered, Isn't it true you've broken down emotionally in front of others? Emily's eyes flickered to Sarah, who gave her the smallest nod of courage. She straightened, her voice rising, I may have broken, but I have never failed my child. Silence filled the room. For a moment, Emily felt her strength pierce through the lies surrounding her. When it was David's turn to testify, his charm filled the room like poison wrapped in silk. I only want what's best for Noah, he said smoothly, glancing toward the judge with practiced innocence. Emily clenched her fists, knowing the mask he wore hid years of cruelty. The lawyer asked soft questions, guiding him like a dance. He painted himself as stable, successful, caring. Emily's stomach twisted at the lies, but then Michael leaned forward, whispering, Wait, the truth always finds a way through cracks. David's performance dazzled some in the room, but to Emily, every word was another blade. She whispered under her breath, You'll show yourself for who you are. Michael was called to the stand, his presence shifting the atmosphere. He raised his hand, swore the oath, and locked eyes with Emily, silent reassurance passing between them. David's lawyer pressed, Why should we trust you after being absent for so long? Michael's jaw tightened, his voice steady, Because I saw the truth and I regret my silence. Emily has carried this burden alone, and she has never once failed Noah. His words carried weight, cutting through the haze of lies. David glared, his mask cracking for the briefest second. Emily's throat tightened with tears she refused to let fall. For the first time, the courtroom felt less like a cage and more like a battlefield where she had allies by her side. The judge called for closing statements, and the room grew heavy with anticipation. David's lawyer spun his final web, but Emily's attorney rose with quiet power. This case isn't about wealth or image, he said, his voice echoing. It's about love, safety, and who has always been there for Noah. Emily's chest ached as she listened. every word cutting deep into her fear. David shifted uncomfortably, his mask beginning to crack. Emily gripped the photo of Noah in her lap, whispering, "We'll be okay." As silence fell, the gavel struck lightly, signaling the decision would come soon. Emily exhaled shakily, her hands trembling, yet for the first time she felt strength outweigh fear. The battle wasn't over, but her spirit refused to break. The courtroom was silent, as the judge delivered his ruling. Emily's breath caught, her hands trembling as she gripped Noah's photo. Custody granted to Emily, the words rang like a bell, shattering weeks of fear. David's face twisted, his mask fully broken, while Emily closed her eyes, tears slipping free. She whispered, "We did it, Noah," her chest heavy with relief. Michael and Sarah squeezed her shoulders, grounding her in the moment. For the first time, she felt the crushing weight of uncertainty begin to lift. The battle was over, but the scars remained carved deep within her. Outside the courthouse, Emily stepped into the cool air, her chest rising with the first free breath in months. She looked up at the pale sky, whispering, "It's over." Michael hugged her tightly, his voice low, "You were stronger than you knew." Sarah smiled through tears, "You never walked this road alone." Emily nodded, her eyes distant but steady. The city noise buzzed around them, life moving forward, as if nothing had changed. Yet for Emily, everything had. Noah's laughter echoed in her heart, reminding her why she fought. Though victory carried scars, hope had finally broken through the clouds. That evening, Emily returned home with Noah. He ran through the door, his small feet pounding against the floor as he shouted, "Mommy, we're safe!" Emily dropped to her knees, catching him in her arms, laughing and crying all at once. "Yes, baby, we're safe now," she whispered into his curls. The apartment still carried the shadows of fear, but in that moment it felt like a sanctuary. Noah pulled her toward the table where his crayon drawings waited. "This is us forever," he said proudly. Emily kissed his forehead, whispering, "Forever, my love." Later, Emily sat on the balcony alone, the city lights glittering like scattered stars. The night air was cool, brushing against her skin like a quiet embrace. She whispered to herself, "We made it. But I'm not the same." Her eyes traced the horizon, where darkness met light. The scars of betrayal still pulsed within her, but beneath them was a new strength. She thought of David's twisted smile fading into defeat, of Michael's redemption, of Sarah's loyalty. She pressed her hand to her chest, whispering, "I will never forget, but I will rise again." As the night settled, Emily stood outside Noah's bedroom door, her hand resting on the wood. Inside, his soft breathing filled the silence, a lullaby of peace. She entered quietly, sitting beside him, brushing his curls gently. Her lips curved into a smile, not forced but real. She whispered, "We're stronger now, and we'll never stop fighting." Noah stirred, reaching for her hand in his sleep, and she held it, tears slipping down her cheeks. The world beyond their walls was uncertain, but in that small room, hope lived. Emily closed her eyes, vowing to protect it always.